They called him the Diesel.
Crank up that diesel. Let's go.
He leaned across the table and he goes, "You need to get me back there. I'll make you famous."
And to Riggins, good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone.
It's Riggo, the Diesel.
Welcome to Riggo the Diesel. I am Riggo the Diesel, John Riggins. I got Larry Michael with me, the voice of the Washington Redskins. I'm just thinking about Coach Gibbs. How can he call a guy a fruitcake that did that, made him famous? That's just, I don't get it. But anyway, that's a story for another time.
No, I'd love to hear that one now. It's perfect time. No, we saw Coach Gibbs last night.
Yeah, he was there at the game.
He was at the game. He brought his grandsons up. J.D. Gibbs' sons were at the game, and they came in the broadcast booth in the second half. And, obviously, kind of sad. Obviously, still, J.D. passed away earlier this year. And his kids are such strong kids, and they were all there wearing their Redskins
three of them,
gear.
right?
The three of them, they were wearing Redskins gear, and in fact, I think one of them was wearing an RG3 jersey. So, which I thought was kind of odd, but they were in the booth there, and it's just you can see I don't know the oldest son's name, but you look at him and man, you just see his dad right in his face.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure.
And Joe Gibbs is doing great, man. I mean, he's got the playoffs going on. They've got a couple races into the playoffs. He's got the top guy. He's got the second guy. He's got the third guy. They finished 1, 2, 3 in Richmond.
You said the other fourth car was disqualified. Otherwise, they would have been 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, they didn't pass inspection. Not the kind of inspection you and I have to take our cars to.
No.
But an inspection nonetheless, where they check all the aero and all the different stuff on those cars, and they are kicking butt in the NASCAR playoffs. And Coach, I'm sure, did not go home happy last night after seeing that game.
I don't want to put it to him, though. Which would you rather do, see him win the game or the finish he had in Richmond? Well, getting back to the game. Larry, something dawned on me, and I don't know how this works because I don't really think. First of all, let's start with Jonathan Allen and the comments that he had last night in the locker room. I mean, he's telling it like it is. It's unvarnished. It's the way it's supposed to be. He gets it. But at the same time, not necessarily everybody feels that way. And that's something that I think that really is important in that locker room. And that's why I think he's really emerged as certainly the leader of the defense, and I'm starting to think he's actually taken on the personality of the leader of the team to a certain extent, which is odd because, and of course you got a new quarterback here, but his personality is so bold and so strong. I felt compelled to listen to what he said, and I was ready to go, outside and do push-ups or whatever. So what I'm saying is that he's basically telling everybody, hey, we're not out of it. You're 0-3. I played on a team that was 0-5. Coach thought he was going to get fired, talking about Coach Gibbs. And that team didn't make the playoffs, but it did turn its season into an 8-8 season, which is a pretty amazing accomplishment.
Springboard to the next year, too.
And then the next year you're in the Super Bowl. So you got to appreciate that, and I said this last night, I think, in the booth, or at least in the pregame show, that, 0-5, does it make any difference? You got the New England Patriots, and I know we got the Giants, and I don't want to skip past them, but the point being is everybody I know has got a loss already in the column when the Patriots come to town in 2 weeks. And that kind of thinking is what cannot happen. It's fine for the fans to feel that way.
Right.
But that kind of thinking can't happen. That's got to be something you look at as an opportunity. This week in New York, they have to look at this like as if it's an opportunity to get to 1-3 and start to turn this thing around, the very thing that Jonathan Allen was talking about in the locker room last night.
Speaking of Jonathan Allen, it comes to my mind, back in the day, you were your own man. Ain't nobody was more of his own man than you, right? I think you'd agree to that. TC? Absolutely. How would you have reacted to Jonathan Allen's statements back in the day, considering the person you were and the position you had on the team back then? I know it's a different team, and John Allen's like 3-year guy right now. But he was very strong. I don't really like the profanity that much because I think that kind of takes away from the message a little bit. I know he's angry, and that's the way most of us talk. Didn't like it, because I think it took away from the message.
Yes.
More people are, diverted by the words than by those words, the profanity. But would you have followed that? Would you? What would your opinion have been back in the day if someone really let out like that?
Well, first of all, talk about profanity. Unfortunately or fortunately, whatever your point of view is, that's where society, culture has evolved today. I mean, it's just kind of accepted to a certain point because we have cable and anything goes on cable. So I don't think anybody's particularly careful with how they enunciate or some of the word usage that they have. But when I look back on it, I'm thinking he's only a 3-year player. It's a third-year player.
Right.
And I find that odd. Not odd. I mean, odd in a good way, unusual in a good way, that he has taken on that mantle, that role. That, and I think that comes a little bit from the fact he grew up around here. And I got to believe that this is his team. And that's been his team since he was a little kid. And I think it's very personal for him. And you got to admire that. You got to like that. And myself personally, I'd have said, now there's a guy that gets it. And it would be basically he would be echoing the same kind of sentiments that I would have had, I would think, in a similar situation where you're just brutally honest about it, I think. And, you got to, when somebody isn't getting the job done, they got to be called out on it. You can't get into this. Political correctness is great for the rest of the world, but you get in when you get in a football locker room, there's not a lot of political correctness.
Let's go past the profanity then. It sounds to me what you're saying is he was so real. How could you not listen?
Yeah, and it's not just so much that the soundbite that he put out, but it's really more what he's doing in that locker room and when they're out at practice and trying to get these guys to focus and get them to where they need to be to play. Because there was, it's so strange. You look at a game where the team's down 28-3 at halftime, and you feel like, well, they were lucky they got the 3 points, maybe they were. But what's so bizarre about this that proves his point that they had a chance to win this game in the second half. They got so close. Now, there's two things going on here. One, Chicago really isn't that good of a football team, offensively speaking, and yet they made some plays. I mean, my God, when you turn the ball over 5 times, somebody's going to take advantage of that, and Chicago was able to. But when it came down to it and Washington started creeping back into it, they didn't have anything left. I'm talking about their offense. They didn't have, they stepped on the pedal. They were already down to the floor, so there was no place to go with it. And Washington started to creep back and get back into the game. Then they had the big fumble on the 4th and 1. So you look at this, and it seems like 2 weeks ago, for the past 2 weeks prior to last night's game, they played the first half, and then everybody, they leave at intermission. And this week they were late to the game. They didn't show up till the second half. To me, I think that they're in a situation where they have to find the positive, and I think that is something positive. I think they can grow from that to take what they're doing well, and they got to stretch it out into 60 minutes of football, 4 quarters. And so far they're unable to do that.
To extrapolate on your comment about how you guys started in 81, I mean, you got a game coming up Sunday. It's against the Giants. You got to find a way to win that game, regardless of who is next. Can you find that lightning in a jug in this NFL to where this team appears to be more talented than the record indicates? To me, they are more talented than an 0-3 team. And you do have talent on the team, and they've had this kind of disjointed beginning to the season. Usually it takes a few weeks to find a personality of a team. These guys are just trying to find togetherness of the team. Forget about a personality. I mean, I guess offensively, passing attack is the personality. They've got some good receivers right now who are catching a lot of balls. McLaurin, Trey Quinn, Paul Richardson. These guys look pretty good.
Yep.
But can you find that lightning in a jug in this NFL?
Yeah, I definitely think you can, because I'll tell you what, the very team they're going to play this week with David Jones as their quarterback, I think they found it down in Tampa this past weekend or on Sunday. And that's what this is where it gets a little weird and a little ticklish, you might say, because I have to believe you're going up into the Meadowlands and you're going to play a team that, on paper, I would say, a lot of similarities here. They're not, neither one of them, you could say at this point in the season, is a powerhouse. But the difference I see is Washington's coming off of what could have been a devastating loss, which if they, like I was thinking at the first half, I'm thinking this could end up 45-10 or something stupid. Yeah. Fortunately for the Burgundy and Gold, it didn't happen, but they still are coming from a deficit. You can't really be riding a wave. You're not up on the wave. You're actually still in the wave. You haven't gotten up on top of it. The Giants kind of feel like they have. That, to me, Larry, is the biggest thing they're going to have to overcome, will be the energy and the enthusiasm with which the Giants will be playing in front of their home fans. And that is, I think, a monumental task. And if they can do that, and you really will, if they can win this game Sunday, I think that could very well be enough wind in the sails to pick them back up and get them back headed on, in the right direction.
I've done some early research, John. Done some early research on some of the numbers. The Redskins rated 30th rushing in the National Football League. There's 32 teams, TC, in case you didn't know that. The Giants rated 32nd against the pass, 30th defensively overall. So I think you take a look at this and you say, well, this might play to the Redskins' strengths. And maybe that is why Jay Gruden is so strongly in the corner of Case Keenum. He was asked at the press conference, how about a coaching change? Quarterback change. And
I'd be surprised if he answered, well, actually, I've considered that.
I meant quarterback change.
I'm going to step down, be offensive coordinator.
And he says, you know what? I think Case deserves, more time. He's new with the team, new with the offense, and we've done some good things. And despite the 5 turnovers, maybe he's looking at that Giant defense and saying, you know what? I know what I got in Case Keenum. If we can protect him, because I think the big problem with Case Keenum last night was the way the game started and how he was just blitzkrieged by that defense. And I think that his head was on a swivel the rest of the first half, and he was throwing balls up to avoid the rush, and should be doing that, veteran quarterback that he is.
He knows better, yeah.
But I believe that pass rush was the factor there early on. They came out really hard at him, and I think he felt pressure almost every pass. Maybe his first 10 passes, 9 of them he felt pressure or got hit or got sacked. So maybe those numbers help you maybe get ready for this game a little bit if you're a Redskin fan, because the Giants' defense appears to be very weak. I mean, they gave up, 31 to Tampa? And Again, I haven't done a lot of research on Tampa, but just knowing that the Giants probably won that game because of the quarterback change.
Well, that definitely was a part of it, but to hitchhike off what you just said, the defense almost gave it back. Tampa had a field goal at the end, which was I think it was a 46-yard field goal. They miss it. Otherwise, Tampa wins the game. Well, there you go. So that changes, and winning or losing does change, I would say, the fevered pitch of the players. They would see, it would kind of steal a moment in a way. It's kind of strange in the fact that Jones played exceptional, I think, in that game, the rookie quarterback for the Giants. They could have come away losers, and that kind of would have been, you would have found your guy of the future, but it wouldn't have the same pizzazz, if you will, that the win does. And
right.
that's kind of what I kind of feel about that. Anyway, should we take a break and come back?
That's probably the longest segment of the podcast history. Is that the longest segment of the podcast history?
It's official.
And how many is this? 47? 48?
This is 46.
46. All right. Whether on the field or in the classroom, the Washington Redskins believe learning should be fun. That's why we've partnered with youth entrepreneurs to bring their engaging, hands-on style of learning to classrooms in the D.C. metro area. Youth Entrepreneurs curriculum was created by educators for educators. That means it's flexible, fun, and absolutely free. To learn more about Youth Entrepreneurs and how to experience it for yourself, visit get-e.org.
833-RIGGO-44. 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 This is a Bill Esper acting class, which I graduated from years ago. I'm doing repetition right now.
With honors.
And you're probably, I don't think I got honors there. The guy was glad to see me leave, actually. But the reason I bring it up, 833-RIGGO-40, that's O'Connor Plumbing's number. I'd like you to call them. If you think you have a problem anywhere in the house with some of your plumbing, give them a call. I've been using them for quite a few years now, 5-6 years, and I wished I'd have found out about them sooner because they do a great job. They really do. And if they miss something, and everybody's going to, they'll be right back there, and they will make it right. And the best part about it is they do great work, and they're reasonably priced. They could charge a lot more for the quality of the work, but they don't. And they want your business, and you just need to call them at 833-RIGGO-44 if you have anything. And the other thing about this is if you have a major problem and you're just trying to eke by, Don't do that. It's going to end up in a disaster. They have a financing plan that you can work with you and figure out how you can pay this thing off month by month, whatever it may be. So don't be afraid to give them a call and you find out you get a big number. They'll help you finance the deal. 833-RIGGLE44.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand back and watch the Phoenix rise from the ashes.
Stand back. It's Riggo the Diesel.
Too bad
Their phone number, their main phone number is Riggo44?
1833.
There'll be somebody try to steal that.
Wow.
Yeah, 833-RIGGLE44.
Well done.
By the way, I'm certainly glad I didn't go out in front of the audience last night and tell them to stand back. I'm so glad I didn't do that. I got to help. I was thinking, I couldn't figure it out for sure, but there was some guy, I thought they were inducting London Fletcher, but they inducted some guy, London Fleckthor.
Yeah, there was
Do
a
you know
typo.
that guy?
There was a typo. You got to rub it in. There was a typo. I feel bad for the person that did that.
I did too. Well, I feel bad for
It's a
London.
typo. I talked to London, and you know what? London was deeply moved by the gesture. He
I
was
bet.
really genuinely moved. And when you think about every game the guy played, every game, John.
He never missed a
200
game in his
256 games played and 215 straight starts. 215 straight starts. That is an
Speaks
all-time
for itself.
NFL record
It is.
for a linebacker. Linebacker. Now, linebacker is kind of
middle
like
linebacker.
running back. I mean, that's a grueling position. That is not an easy. Well, there's no easy. I guess
Yeah.
punter, kicker. You don't get hit very much.
Wide receivers.
Wide
cornerback.
receiver, holder. But there's no designated holders. That's always the punter nowadays. Not even a quarterback anymore.
That's
It used
true.
to be the quarterback. It's always the
Well,
punter.
they make the punter learn how to catch. I guess that's part of your job nowadays.
Because you all are off to the side by yourself the whole time.
Yeah, really.
I mean, did Mosley ever participate on 11-on-11 drills?
I think he disappeared after, and then he'd come back out for when they did special teams.
And his hair was perfect.
Not to mention the sweatbands and the shoes.
Well, you need sweatbands if you're a kicker.
And gloves. Did we
And
forget? Don't forget the gloves.
gloves.
I repeat, I love Mose, but Mose, you weren't
love
supposed to
Mose,
touch a
too.
football.
I love
mean, if you
Mose,
touch
too.
a football with your hands, you're supposed to touch it with your feet. You can't touch it with your hands.
No, you needed the sweatbands in case that sweat dribbled off his hands onto his toe.
Yeah,
And he got a couple
perhaps.
drops on that square-toed boot that you can't find anymore. I guess maybe you could find one of those, right? Go to
I
Cobbler.
would doubt. Well, I'm sure they're around, but I don't think there's anybody that would use one, right? Because the soccer-style kicker is here to stay.
100%. Do you think any place manufactures square-toe kicking shoes?
I doubt
Probably
it.
not.
Special order.
I'm
Special
wondering.
order
I
from
would
where?
think, yeah, but-
Croza
I
Enterprises?
think that Rawlings used to make that shoe, if I'm not mistaken, but there probably was more than one. Oh, well, that's what I meant, Riddell.
Riddell.
That was it, Riddell.
Yeah.
They made helmets too, right? Yeah, I
Yep.
thought so. I think I wore one. Anyway.
Anyway.
As we look at this, I was thinking of what you just, we were talking about before, and I to me, and what Coach Gruden had talked about, with Case Keenum and where you are right now, I mean, it gets down to two things, I think, Larry, here. Or I guess it really gets down to one thing. Do you really legitimately, and here's this you have to play out a little bit more, is to try to do something special this season, special, i.e. win more games than you lose, perhaps get into the tournament, or what happens at the end. And I think that's kind of where things are right now. But there's going to be a tipping point, I would say, because we all have to admit, when you spend a first-round draft pick on a quarterback, he's the guy you're wanting to get in there and start getting the experience, and he's the guy you look forward to the future. As I said, there's going to be a tipping point if things don't turn around, and it could be even, it could be a more of a upheaval than what I'm suggesting here, but at some point when you really get the feeling that this isn't going to end the way you want it to, that I think there almost has to be a change. Nothing against Case Keenum, because he's on a game by game basis to a certain extent, as opposed to somebody learning from. Let's say you had pick a quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. He's on, the tail end, kind of like Aaron Rodgers, and he had to play behind Brett Favre for a while.
Yeah, he did.
You don't have that situation. That Case Keenum actually was brought in here to back up Colt McCoy, and that's somebody I would like to ask you about in a second. But I just want to get it out there that my personal feelings are that I know a lot of the fans want to see it, and this is the danger, because the fans do feel like, I think a lot of them after last night's game, that the season is a wash. And this is what I was talking about earlier with Jonathan Allen. He's saying, no, it's not a wash. It's not a wash. We're going to line up and we're going to play. You got to appreciate that. But at some point, and this is the way it's supposed to be done, because the players, that's supposed to be their attitude every game, regardless of what their record is.
Right.
They're professionals. You go out there and you play as hard as you can. You try to win every game that you play. But at some point, you step back from it, and somebody that's, looking at the macro are going, well, guys, keep on doing what you're doing, but we are going to make a switch here because we think this is for the betterment of the team. And I'm sure that, that they've got that talk is going to continue if the offense or actually if they don't win games, because like I said, it wouldn't make any difference how well Case Keenum plays. I don't think. I think it's down to a numbers deal that at some point, if they don't win games, then I think that his job would be in jeopardy, because eventually everybody knows that Dwayne Haskins is going to be the quarterback here.
Well, the key phrase, what you said, is at some point.
At some point.
To me, at some point, because if you listen to Jonathan Allen, he says, no, this is not over till we say it's over.
Yep.
Right? Famous words by a famous man. Mm-hmm. Know who?
Belushi.
Yep.
Who?
John Belushi.
Animal House. It's not over until we say it's over.
Oh, I was getting it confused with Yogi Berra. It's not over till the fat man sings.
Pearl Harbor.
That's right. No, it's not over till we say
You
it's
sure
over.
that isn't Yogi Berra? That's a Yogi Berra.
It's not over till it's over.
It's not a fat lady sings.
Yeah, that was Dick Motta.
I thought he came out with a paraphrase, basically, but anyway.
Maybe he did.
It's
but
not over till
we
over.
say it's over. That's what Jonathan Allen was
It's not
saying.
over in the NFC East. Okay.
Well, no, but
That part is true.
But my point,
Yeah.
my point would be that if you listen to Jonathan Allen and you hear him say that, then and you like that, if you like that, you say, you know what, you need 53 guys like this. This is the attitude we need, just like John. Just say it like what's on your mind. I don't care if you curse. I don't care. Just tell me what you think. And I love that bravado. I personally do love it. So if you are a believer in that, how can you say that, oh, well, we're going to use this other quarterback to give him experience, when the coach might believe the other quarterback gives you the best chance to win? So if you're taking your eye off of winning, I think, and when you take your eye off of, maybe Dwayne can come in, and maybe Colt McCoy might be the next guy coming in, because he's got to be getting close to healthy. He's got to be close to being ready to go.
That's what I was going to ask you. So you don't know for sure what his.
I don't know.
situation
We'll
is.
see how he practices or what happens tomorrow. But if you're going to believe in Jonathan Allen saying it's not over till we say it's over, we're going to win, then how could you not go with the quarterback who you felt? Not saying I felt, but the coach's position. If the coach says Case gives us the best chance to win, and you believe what John Allen's saying, that to keep this thing together, you almost have to stick with Case Keenum. Otherwise, you're saying we're playing for the future.
Yeah, I agree with that to a point, Larry. I do. But then the flip of that argument is Haskins the guy that creates the spark?
I don't know what's going on with my phone. My phone
I
just
thought you had
went
a
on.
I thought maybe President Trump was calling for some reason.
He wouldn't be calling me.
Okay.
Maybe
He wouldn't call
TC
me.
over there, the money man, but he was,
But I, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, but maybe you can't do that. But I'm thinking, is Haskins capable of giving this team a spark, or is he?
Yeah, potentially. Potentially, that's the tough spot here, because
That's
you saw
what I'm
Jones
trying to
do that.
say.
So maybe he comes out and maybe he gives you the better chance to win.
You don't
But I'm
know
just
you're
saying
trying.
it's the coach is coaching the team. So if you really want to think about who's going to make this decision, and the coach is coaching the team, and you want to keep it together, you want to keep that team tight. And I know this team does have a good locker room. There's been some issues that have challenged the locker room, I think.
Yes.
Like the week one inactive of Adrian Peterson. Certainly raised some eyebrows in the locker room, but team is still together. So if you want to keep it together, you got to manage those cards like you've been dealt. I think, you know what? Dwayne Haskins, if you're at the point right now and you're playing the Giants and you can get Dwayne Haskins in the game, why not play both guys? Does it have to be one guy that has to be the only guy? I mean, I don't know.
Well, that we know from Dallas years ago that probably doesn't work.
Yeah, but those two guys were vets. This would be a chance to get him
some experience.
I must think, he was warming up on the sideline last night when they were down right before half. He was warming up on the sideline.
Well,
maybe he was just
it was
trying
28
to
to
keep
nothing.
loose. Yeah, so
and we talked about that. Maybe I talked to Scott Jackson in the pregame show about the chances are you're not going to see Haskins unless it's 35 to nothing. Well, it was getting close to be a 35 to nothing, and what you said, you started warming him up, and that's where I'm coming from, because it's always the great unknown is what you have. In other words, what do we have on the bench? We really don't know until you get him out there, and really, I guess maybe this is a fairy tale, like a Hollywood ending, but you bring him in, all of a sudden he creates a spark. And because it just happened last week for the Giants, that I honestly believe, and that's no knock on Eli Manning. It's not a knock on Case Keenum, but how much are you really losing there? It's not, and you could actually make the argument after 5 turnovers, and of course you can say, well, they weren't all his fault, or maybe none of them was his fault, but still, there's a little bit of culpability there. How much worse off will you be? I don't know, and if this is your guy of the future, I'm thinking, as George Allen used to say, the future is now. So I don't know. I think it's a tough spot. I think you do have to consider it.
I've heard that opinion quite a bit over the last 24 hours. You have 5 turnovers, and, after you go back and look at the film, I'm sure Case doesn't feel good about his game yesterday. I mean, he had 5 turnovers, and even if somebody missed an assignment or he's still the quarterback. He took it on his shoulders right after the game, which I was impressed with.
Yeah.
It's all on me. All the turnovers on me. And even the one where he tried to jump over the pile, I was wondering, Cooley brought it up right away. I mean, that's not a goal line situation. So your progress is going to be measured. If he bounced back and he tried to run a little bit more, I mean, I don't know. I mean, in hindsight, that really was the ball game right there.
Yeah, it was, because that snuffed out the comeback. They were on the verge, and this is where you saw it's kind of, and that's what was interesting about this game. You really felt like the Bears were just going to run away with this thing, but the Bears were legitimately worried at that point.
Yes,
because their offense and the defense was starting to come around. I mean, that really was a critical play, but at the same time, had he not tried to leap, he wasn't going to make it anyway. I don't think he was, he tried to go over, but maybe he could have. He stays behind Rouillet, and, they can go ahead and get that.
When you're a big 6'4" Tom Brady, you can fall forward behind your center. When you're not, it's very difficult. If I got Riggo on the backfield, I give the ball to Riggo. But AP really didn't have much running room the entire game either.
No, it happened. And he had the 3rd and 1 that set up the 4th and 1.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So, everybody's got to take their share of the responsibility. Anyway, we'll be right back with Section 3.
We have a quick read. Hey there, Larry Michael. One of my favorite things to do is play games, the Virginia Lottery, and they just introduced a new game. Yes, they did. It's called Print and Play Rolling Jackpot, a Virginia-only instant win game. Starting jackpot of $50,000, the jackpot increases with each ticket sold until there's a winner. There are no play slips to fill out, no waiting for a drawing, just purchase, play, and check to see if you've won. It's that easy. $2 ticket can win 20% of the jackpot, $5 ticket can win 50% of the jackpot, and a $10 ticket wins 100% of the jackpot. For each price point, the odds of winning the top prize are 1 in 240,000. Look for it at your favorite Virginia Lottery retailer.
Hey, I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
Who's bored? Who's broke? And who's back?
I wanted to always see the redwoods. I wanted to see the Rocky Mountains. I wanted to see the Painted Desert, the Petrified Forest, the Grand Canyon. That was like the land that I always wanted to go to.
John Riggins.
All right. All I ever ended up seeing was stars, ultimately, but that's beside the point. Last night before the game, I said that I had 4 people that potentially I was going to pick for my MVPs of the game. I felt like that this is the way the game would unravel.
Yeah.
Well, it did kind of unravel. Unfold would have been a better word. McLaurin would have been McLaurin. He would definitely been one of them. I had Keenum as one of the guys. Obviously, Case, you're going to go at the end of the line on this one. Sorry about that.
Yep.
And Tressway, and I had Dustin Hopkins.
You had the special teamers. That's exactly right.
I did, because, when a team is struggling like this, that I think that they play such a huge role, and I really thought this would be a much closer ball game. I didn't think there would be that much scoring. And if you really, if you're honest about it, I think if you don't have those turnovers, clearly 7 points, a pick 6, that's, the defense scores, 7 points ultimately against you. That you're down to 21. Then you've got, 4 other turnovers that you got to account for. What they get? They got 20 some points, I think, off of turnovers or something like that.
21.
Is that what it was? 21. And it would have been the kind of game that I was talking about. It would have been a low-scoring game where you might have had, you could have had won it by a field goal, lost by a field goal, but you look at the team and you think in these situations that when you're playing somebody who, let's be honest about this, I don't think Chicago they've got a world-beating defense perhaps, but their offense has got a long ways to go.
I agree.
So I think that, when you find yourself in that situation that anybody, I'm down to the point where I won't be doing any MVPs before the game, and hopefully I said it won't be an offensive guy, it'll be a defensive guy.
Well, you know what? I think, you mentioned Terry McLaurin, mentioned it earlier. The wide receivers on this team look pretty good. You've got a lot of youth there, second-year man, a couple of rookies, Kelvin Harmon, Terry McLaurin. Also, I think Steven Sims, number 15, shows that he can be a weapon. He had some nice kick returns in the game. Haven't seen a kickoff return of more than 25 yards in a couple of years. He had about a 45-yarder. I think he draws the defense on those sweeps. When he goes in motion, you have a notion he might get that ball. I thought Chris Thompson, again, 3 games in, unsung hero. This guy runs between the tackles. He does whatever the team asks of him, and he is tireless. He finds a way to get yardage. So there are a couple bright spots. I think the offensive line, they did clean up the penalties. The penalties were not as devastating, but you got a couple nicks and bruises. Brandon Sheriff hurt an ankle. We heard the coach say they're going to evaluate that this week. And so maybe Wes Martin has to step in. We don't know. It's going to be a very short week for the Redskins. And, of course, the one player who has not been part of the offensive mix yet through 3 games is Jordan Reed. And while his future is in question, there's no question that they miss what he brings.
Sure.
And Vernon Davis, I thought that karate kick when he went to leap that guy,
and the guy backed
Prince
up.
Amukamara backed up. I think he should have extended his leg and kicked the guy in the chest because he was looking like,
would that draw a penalty?
No, it didn't.
No, if you kick the guy, as you had suggested, would that be unnecessary roughness?
I don't know. Is that a penalty? Well, what if you did it by accident?
Well, then you got to be a good actor then.
Albert Haynes stomping on somebody's leg.
Well, that was a penalty.
Yeah, and
that was a
Dominican
head.
Sue did it too. He stepped on a couple people in his day. But you're leaping up in the air to leap over a guy, and you're leading with that one foot like a hurdler.
Yeah.
And if that guy's chest happens to be there and he doesn't duck, is that
you stiff leg him? You give him a stiff leg.
You give him a stiff leg.
Huh? I wished I'd have thought of that.
Stiff arm.
I could still be playing.
Give you a stiff
if
leg.
I had a stiff leg. Hey, you, stiff leg.
But he gave him a knee to the chest a little bit. He gave him a little bit of a knee. He could have extended that.
More of an air stiff.
Yeah, exactly. He drew nothing but air. I don't think there was any contact. By the way, that gets me back to, before we close out here, I keep thinking, you mentioned all these young wide receivers. I'm thinking, isn't this the time to have them all grow together? Haskins and his wide receivers. He's already, let's face it, Haskins played with McLaurin at Ohio State. There's a natural connection right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna step down. I'm gonna step down on this for now, but there's always next week. We'll see what happens.
Well, let's see who your MVPs are in this week's pregame show. All right, coming back with the Redskins update after this.
Montana has cowboys. Florida has the sunshine. Texas has everything.
Hey, y'all.
Cali has the 405 backup.
Oh, come on.
Kansas has... does anyone know what Kansas has? But Virginia? Virginia has the print and play rolling jackpot, starting at $50K and rolling, where you can win instantly. And the best part? It's by the Virginia Lottery for Virginians. Odds of winning top prize are 1 in 240,000.
Well, the new football season is almost here, and this team is not going to settle this year.
No way. They're focused on being the best. That's why they all went and got Hondas on clearance at the Honda Summer Spectacular event.
Because as we all know, if you want to be the best,
you have to drive the best.
Exactly.
Don't settle this football season. Get clearance pricing on a reliable award-winning Honda like the Accord, Civic, CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, and more. Don't settle. Get to the Honda Summer Spectacular event at your local Honda dealer today.
Locally owned Novec has the most reliable power in the region. And we all know how important being reliable is.
Especially with my electricity.
Novec provides electricity from multiple renewable sources.
Yeah!
And will soon include even more solar.
That's great.
And Novec offers convenient 24/7 online services.
I can pay my bill anytime, anywhere.
Novec.
Power you can trust.
This is your Redskins update for the podcast. Here, Riggo the Diesel, Clinton Portis 26 Minutes, and the Chris Cooley Show. The Redskins back on the practice field on Wednesday. You can have Jay Gruden and starting quarterback Case Keenum with press conferences after practice live on Redskins.com. On Thursday, it is Greg Minuski and head coach Jay Gruden. Friday, we'll hear from the offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell and Jay Gruden. Practice on Wednesday. That is your Redskins update from Redskins Park.